Good morning. Welcome to free OpManager training series. Before we start, I would like to get a quick confirmation from you all. If you can hear me well and see the presentation slides, please use the webinar chat panel and type yes. Let me wait for a couple of confirmation and then we can get started. All right. I can see a lot of confirmation from your end saying that you can see the screen and also hear me well. So we are good to go. All right. My name is Suresh Bhagavati, evangelist for ManageEngine IT Operations Suite. Before I ended up in this role, I was working as a support engineer with IT operations technical team and helped customers and prospects around the globe to make best use of IT operations products in their organization. With all this experience, I'm here doing a 4-part free OpManager training series. As you all know, last Wednesday on 2nd October, we already completed the first part, discovery and classification, where we discussed about the different ways of getting your inventories added in your monitoring tool and how to apply filters to ignore the unwanted devices and how to automate some of the post-discovery task, and how to schedule the network scan so that the devices that gets activated on the network later date will be automatically picked and monitored by OpManager. And as you all know, we learned about getting the inventories added in the monitoring tool. And the next thing is to monitoring the availability and performance of the devices. So in today's session, we'll focus more on monitoring the server performance. Just give me a moment. I'm hearing a lot of feedback. I'll just fix that for you. Just give me. Some of the audio is on. I'm sorry about that. I fixed that. So in the third part, 16th of October, next Wednesday, we're going to talk about monitoring the network performance. We're going to focus more on talking about the routers, switches, firewalls, load balancers, printers, and so on. And in the final part, we'll talk about fault management. So what are the different ways that you can monitor and get alerted for problems identified by OpManager, and how to automate, how to create some workflows to fix the issues automatically. How can you create some flows? Say, for example, you identify a problem, and whenever there is a problem, you're going to fix that using some certain steps. So you can create workflows to execute those tasks automatically using IT workflow automation and OpManager. So we're going to discuss more about that as well. And this session is happening in 2 different time zones. One is 6:30 a.m. GMT, which is happening now, and the other is 11:30 a.m. EDT. So if you have any colleagues in United States who wants to join, you can very well share the registration link with them. And more importantly, the recorded version of this webinar will be emailed to you along with the presentation material. So you can use this for later reference, or you can share this with your friends or colleagues who missed join today's session. And it will also be posted on our website, in our webpage, opmanager.com/training.html. You can mark this link for the later reference. All right, so next, we'll get started with monitoring server performance. And let me quickly run through the agenda for today's session. So as you know, we have learned about getting the inventories added in the monitoring system, and now we'll learn how to monitor the availability of the devices and how to monitor the performance of the servers. So what are the important metrics that you need to keep track on the servers so that you can ensure the health of the servers, and monitoring the virtual server performance, monitoring the storage server performance, monitoring the website URLs, monitoring the files and folders for their availability, and script monitoring. So how you can use the script in OpManager to monitor some of the performance metrics on your servers. So this is something that is very important that you should know when monitoring devices in OpManager. So for availability, we use ICMP ping. So to check the availability of the devices, response time, and packet loss, we use ICMP ping. So for the devices that for which the ICMP ping is enabled, you will not have any trouble monitoring the devices. And these are the various alerts that you will see for the availability. So the attention, when the device misses the first pole, it's going to give you an attention alarm. When it is missing 3 poles, it is giving you a trouble alarm. And for missing 5 poles or more than that, you're going to receive a critical alarm. And for some of the devices for which the ICMP is disabled, you're going to use TCP. I'm going to show that in the product demo for you. And for interfaces, we use SNMP, and for services, TCP. For Windows services, WMI, process all 3 protocols like WMI, SNMP, Telnet, or SSH, and so on. So all these protocols uses variety of ports. So you need to make sure that all these ports are open in the firewall, so that at a later point of time, when you add the devices in monitoring tool, when you set up the monitoring, when the device is trying to, when OpManager is trying to poll the device for a CPU or memory or any performance metrics, you will not have any trouble when you make sure that the protocol and the ports are open in your firewall. So you have to make sure that we cover all these things. We have to make sure that all these ports and protocols are enabled in the network. And the first thing, monitoring the availability of the devices. As I said, we use the ICMP ping protocol. So just by pinging the device, we will be able to get more information on the device, like availability and the packet loss and response time. Let's assume that there are some of your critical servers that are in the DMZ zone, demilitarized zone, and for which the ICMP is disabled. And in that case, you can go ahead and enable the devices for monitoring through the TCP port. So let me quickly jump into the product and show you a quick demo of that. So this is the inventory page. So let's assume that you have brought all the devices in the monitoring system for monitoring the performance, and you have a beautiful filter option here that gives you the list of servers, desktops, and domain controllers, routers you have, and you want to split this based on the type or vendor. You can very well do that. And let's assume that I'm getting into this device. This is the device snapshot page, which gives you more information on the availability, packet loss, response time, and all other performance metrics. So we're talking about enabling the TCP for devices. So you just got to edit the device, and by default, we try to monitor the devices through ICMP. So some of the critical devices for which you do not have ICMP enabled, you just go to the device snapshot page and change the protocol to TCP and just provide the port number and save it, so that from now on, the devices will be monitored using the TCP port. And the next is configuring thresholds for the packet loss and response time. So as we discussed about monitoring the availability, it also monitors the packet loss and response time. I would say that in case you're monitoring any devices within the LAN, and it doesn't mean to configure thresholds for packet loss or response time, because there is 0% packet loss for all your devices within the LAN, and the response time is going to be always in milliseconds. So there's no need to monitor the packet loss or threshold. But say you wanted to monitor a firewall across the network, which is your home branch is available in United States, and you're monitoring a firewall across the network, which is available in UK, and there you need to measure the packet loss and response time. When there is a packet loss, when the response time is too high, and you need to measure that, and you should be notified about the problem, so that you can make sure that you fix that, and you make sure it is responded in milliseconds and there is no packet loss, to avoid any issues. So how you do that in OpManager? You on the device snapshot page, you see a small icon here over the top right corner of the packet loss or response time. You simply click on that, and you can go ahead and configure the thresholds. So we have multiple level thresholds configuration for the packet loss and response time. So you want to be notified about the problem at various time or various metric level that you're monitoring. So you can mention the values here and be notified about the problem. at various times. And if you think that monitoring or configuring the threshold for packet loss or response time on the device snapshot page, say you have hundreds of devices for which you wanted to repeat this configuration, and in case you wanted to do this manually for each and every devices, it's going to be a painful process. So there is something that helps you to do this globally. You go to settings and quick configuration visit, and from here and at the threshold settings, you have availability monitors. So you can just select the response time or packet loss based on which you wanted to do the global configuration for. Then you can define the threshold and go ahead and associate this to the required devices. So by default, all categories selected. Say you wanted to apply this only for server, you can select the server category, select the available devices, move it to the selected devices column, and just click on save. That is going to apply the threshold configuration for you. And this is not only for availability monitors, but also for performance metrics. So any performance metrics for VMware data store or partition device details, wanted to do a bulk configuration, you can use this quick configuration wizard option. All right, so next is configuring the uplink dependency. So all these three are tied up with monitoring the availability of the devices. Say you have a parent device connected to a group of servers. So a switch that connects around 50 servers. So the switch being the parent of all the 50 servers. And whenever the switch goes down, you do not want to see 51 alarms, including the switch saying that all the devices are down, down, down. So you know that when the switch goes down, all the servers will be down. So in order to avoid getting some unwanted alerts from OpManager, you can make sure that you can go ahead and configure the uplink dependency for those devices. I can show you a quick demo on how to do that. So again, from the quick configuration wizard, you can select the device dependencies. And from here, say you wanted to do this for a switch, and select the respective switch, go to next, and you wanted to apply this for all servers, or you wanted to apply this for any specific business view groups that you have created, or you wanted to manually group the devices, you can select and move it to the right side box and associate. So by doing this, you can make sure that the uplink dependency is set for the devices, and whenever the parent device goes down, all the 50 servers connected to the switch, which are configured with uplink dependency, will not trigger any alarms, but only the switch will trigger an alarm saying that the switch is down. And in the previous session, I already gave you a tip. So this is for the devices that are already discovered. In case you wanted to make sure that the device is discovered and the uplink dependency is set automatically, then I would recommend you using the layer 2 discovery option. So if you provide the seed router information and the start IP, end IP, and discover the devices using this method, and it is going to set the uplink dependency automatically for you. So using the discovery mechanism, the Cisco Discovery Protocol or LLDP, IP route, and FTP, this system knows that the neighboring devices, so, and it knows the parent device as well. So it is going to help you set the uplink dependency for you automatically. If you are using any other discovery method, like adding a device manually, or you're using a discovery profile where you're choosing an IP range or CSV import, then this is not going to set the uplink dependency automatically for you. So you make sure that if you wanted to do this automatically, then when you discover the devices, make sure that you discover the devices using the layer 2 discovery method. And moving on next, the availability statistics. So now we know how to configure the availability for the devices, and the device started monitoring the data, and we are started seeing the statistics for the availability, and it's colorful, and you're confused with a lot of colors available here. So here we explain why all the color means, what all the color means, and as you know, the green represents up and the red represents down, and there are some gray areas, so which means that they are on the planned maintenance. So you're having a planned maintenance activity that is going on every Friday evening between 5 and 6, and you can schedule that activity in OpManager. We have a method to do that using downtime scheduler. If you do that, the devices during that period will be marked in gray. And if any devices that are configured with uplink dependency, and when the parent device goes down, it is going to mark that availability chart with yellow color for those period. And on hold is something that you take the device on demand. You take the device down on demand. Say you wanted to upgrade a hardware that's not a planned activity, and you pick a random date, and to do that activity properly, you take a 1 hour or 2 hours to fix that. So you can put that device on hold, so to avoid unnecessary alarms that you are seeing for the device in OpManager. And not monitored is something that when the OpManager system itself is down, you're doing a maintenance activity for OpManager servers. Say you're doing an upgrade or you're doing a backup. So for an hour or 2 hours, the OpManager system itself is down, and then the devices during that period will be marked in blue color. So these are all the variety of, the different colors that means what in the availability statistics. So on the device snapshot page, you click on the graph, and that gives you the data. And not only that, whenever you take the device down, or whenever the device goes down and you're working on something to fix that problem, so the system is going to mark the from and to time when the device went down, and you have an option to update the reason. So the device went down maybe for a hardware upgrade, and the administrator is working on it. So you can provide a reason here saying that changing the hardware, upgrading the system, Exchange server, or so on. So the other administrators who logs in and view this report will understand that why the system was taken down, and from time and to time, how long it was down, what is the reason, which engineer worked on that problem, and so on. You have all the data for you. All right, and next is monitoring the service availability. So there are two ways that we monitor the services. One is the TCP service, just normal telnet port check. So in order to know whether the service is up or not, you're just going to telnet the servers with the respective port number. Similarly, you wanted to monitor the servers and OpManager, you can just go ahead, add the service name, and provide the port number. And you can also enable to discover this service on the devices whenever the device is discovered in OpManager. You can also schedule that activity. And the Windows servers. So for Windows devices, we monitor the Windows service through WMI, through the scripts. So, and the advantage of monitoring the Windows service is you can mention the action, whenever the service goes down, the first thing the administrator tries to do is to restart the service, and then go around to check why the service went down, all those steps. But the first thing, it will try to restart the service. So all those actions can be automated for Windows services, either to restart the service or restart the server, or you can also leave it with no action. So this provided the user, the administrator account, the credentials that you had used on this device should have the permission to restart the service or restart the server. So you can make sure that it is done, the action is done for the respective devices. So you go to settings, and under the monitoring, you have service monitors. So here we have some default list of services available. So it's very easy to add a new service. Just provide the service name, the port number, and the timeout. And if you wanted to make sure that when a device is added, you wanted to scan this particular service, you can enable the scan discovery option and just save the service. And the Windows servers, as I said, you have an option to restart the service or restart the server, and just simply save it after doing the configuration. So whenever this particular service is monitored from a particular server, and whenever it goes down, you wanted to restart the service, it is going to do the job automatically for you. If you're wondering where all these informations are available on the devices. I can quickly show that for you. So you go to the device snapshot page, and under the monitors, you have service monitors, and you have Windows service monitors as well. So you wanted to, right now, we are monitoring only RPC servers from the server. You wanted to add more monitor, just click on add, and that is going to list all the running or all the services available in that server. You can manually pick all the top priority services that you wanted to monitor from the server, and just go ahead and add it. So you can start monitoring all the servers from the respective device. And the next is monitoring the process. So even monitoring some of the critical processes on the servers is important. So monitoring, it helps you monitor the up or down status of the devices. In addition to that, some of the critical processes you wanted to measure the CPU or memory, how much memory or CPU load that the specific process takes. You wanted to measure that, and you wanted to be notified when it deviates from the configured threshold value. So you can use this process monitoring to do that as well. And also there is a process template available. So under the monitoring section, so the process, and you wanted to associate this process to the group of devices. So you just click on associate, select the respective process for which you wanted to globally associate this to a group of devices. Then you select the devices, move it to the selected device column, and save it. And that is how you globally assign the processes to the devices. And getting into the process page, so you can go ahead and configure thresholds for the CPU or memory and get notified about the problem as well. You can also monitor the instance count for the process. So if you have more number of instances running on the same process, you can also measure that. And in the meantime, you have any questions, I recommend you to go ahead and post it, because we have a panelist team available, and you have any questions, you feel free to post it and they can answer your questions then and there. And also we have last 10 minutes dedicated for answering all the questions that we received from the attendees. So we're going to pick all the interesting questions and discuss that in the last 10 minutes so that it will be benefited for the larger audience. And next we move on to monitoring the key performance metrics on the servers. Let's assume that you get a call one day wherein you were asked to troubleshoot the performance slowness on a critical server. So what are the key performance metrics that you need to measure from the server, so that you can make sure that whenever the server goes down or whenever the server health is too busy, and you get to know the real reason why the server is sluggish and so on. So the hard disk is usage is very important, because sometimes there'll be a hit on the SQL logs, and so due to that, it eats up a lot of hard disk usage for you. So that might be the reason to bring down the server performance. So you need to make sure that you monitor the free disk space, use disk space, disk utilization, and disk speed per second. So all this will give you in-depth insight on the disk usage. So whenever the disk hits 80% or 90%, you get to know the real reason, and you can just initiate the cleanup activity so that you can save more space on the server, and you can maintain the performance for the server. And not only that, you need to monitor the CPU utilization and the privilege time, the top processes by CPU usage, and so on, and all the memory usage and memory pages per second, the false reads and writes, and so on, and also the top processes by memory usage. Not only that, finally, you need to keep track on the report. So that the health report that is going to give you the data of the top 10 devices with top CPU or memory use utilization, the disk forecast usage report. Let me quickly take you through the demo. So you go to device templates. So I'm trying to explain this from the device template, because say I'm monitoring a Windows 2008 R2, and whenever the device is discovered, it's going to automatically set the device type as Windows 2008 R2, and the vendor is Microsoft, and the category as server. And why I'm on this page? Because the associated monitors, say I might be having around 100 2008 R2 servers in my environment, and if I'm monitoring all the 100 servers, and you see here all the default list of monitors associated here, so this is going to be automatically associated to the device and start monitoring. And you're seeing something called show dial. And if you enable this, you're going to see this information, the CPU, memory, disk utilization, and the CPU with WMI protocol, memory with WMI, disk utilization with WMI. So you're going to see all the 6 information on the device snapshot page when you go. But in addition to that, you also want to see the data for the input output read and write rate, or the average disk latency. You can just go ahead and enable this, so that in addition to all the selected dials, you'll also see the data for the respective performance metrics on the device snapshot page for you. And you wanted to configure any thresholds, you can go ahead and edit this, configure the threshold value for all the list of monitors that you wanted to do. And once you configure the threshold value and save it, and you can go ahead and apply this, save and associate this to all the 100 devices that you have. So once this is done, and so this is how the default performance metrics works. So in case, say for example, the default, among this default list, you do not want to monitor some around 10 monitors, but which are not important for you, but there are few things that you wanted to add more. You can just click on add monitor and select the monitors from the respective group, whether it is an SNMP monitor or WMI monitor. You can go ahead and select that and add to this template, so that the default monitors will get added to the template automatically. And this is going to save you a lot of time when you add those devices. All the list of performance metrics that you have added in the template will be added automatically for you. So let me go to the device snapshot page and quickly show you where you can see all this data. So this is the device snapshot page, and in the monitor section, you have all the performance metrics added here, and the threshold not enabled, which means that the thresholds are not configured for these devices. So it is just monitoring the data, and you wanted to define any threshold for the CPU utilization, you just edit and update this. And if we update this on the device snapshot page here, it's going to get updated only for this particular monitor, for this particular device. But if you want to do this globally, you have to take it up in the template. You have to do all the configurations from the template. All right, and the reports. So all the key performance metrics that you started monitoring, and you wanted to wanted to know the report on how the servers are performing, you can just go ahead and pull out the health report that is going to bring you the top 10 devices with the availability statistics, packet loss, and response time statistics, and also the CPU, memory, and disk utilization statistics for all the top 10 devices. Or you also wanted to pull out a report based on a CPU utilization for all devices, you can do that as well. And you also want to run a disk forecast report. Okay, I have a bad eyes. Forecast reports are available here. So you can just go ahead and pull out the report for the disk forecast report to know how the disk is performing on all the servers. So you can just get to know the usage for the forecast reports, the prediction, whether it is going to reach the 80% in how many days time, and so on. And so that you can plan for the disk cleanup activity or the disk upgrade activity in your environment accordingly. All right. And next, we'll talk a bit about the virtual server performance. So the first is performance metrics for the virtual devices. So in addition to the SNMP or or telnet or SSH monitors that we do with the basic physical servers. So you can also monitor additional performance metrics like CPU ready time, wait time, memory balloon on the virtual devices. When it comes to virtual environment, we monitor the devices, the VMware, the Hyper-V, Zen server, and so on. So you have a separate dashboard for that. You go to virtualization section and you have all the virtual devices listed here. So let me get into the vCenter server. And so this is going to have the data for the top total data centers available in this vCenter device, total clusters, total hosts, total VMs, and total data stores. And you get into the virtual details. That is going to give you the list of data center and cluster with more information, whether the DRS is enabled or not, the total CPU cores, and so on. And you wanted to further drill down to the host page, you can drill down from here, and you can further get to know more information on the host, and you further drill down to virtual details. So that gives you the list of guest VMs associated to this particular host, and the data store information, the physical NICs, storage adapters, and all with the data. And further, you wanted to drill down to specific guest VMs, you can also do that from here. And you want to know the installed softwares, the active processors, you can get all the report from here. And you wanted to do a specific report for the virtualization, we have a separate category for virtual servers report. So you can pull out, you wanted to know the data store versus VMware VM mapping, or data store versus VMware host mapping. You can pull out a report based on your need from here. And next is the hardware metrics. So you can also monitor the hardware metrics like sensors, power, temperature, voltage from the virtual devices. So we support this through VMware's API protocol, and the supported vendors are Dell and HP. So by default, it starts monitoring the hardware sensors, and you need to go ahead and disable the hardware metrics. I mean, the alarms that you receive for hardware sensors, you can also disable that. And the VMware events. So when you start monitoring the virtual environment, and you also wanted to keep track of some of the virtual events like vMotion or host connections or VMs connections, or powered on or powered off, you can simply go to settings, and from the monitoring section, we have VMware events. So you go to VMware events. So these are some of the default list of VMware events that are available. And you wanted to select a few and get this associated to the available devices, you can do that. Or say you wanted to monitor some of the critical events which are not available in the default list, and you wanted to discover that from the devices, you can just click on add, select the devices. So right now you see here, it had discovered around 421 VMware events. If I go to the bottom, you see these are all some of the user upgrade event or the account updated event. All these are not selected, so which means that you're not going to receive any notification for the events that are coming up from the user upgrade event or user unassigned from group and so on. In this case, you want to be notified about all these problems. So some of you might be interested in monitoring the locker misconfigured event. So you just select this and get this added to the VMware events list. And once it is done, you make sure that it is associated to the respective devices. So once it is done, in the future, if you happen to receive any event from the respective category, it is going to trigger any alarm for you. And next is the reports. So we already discussed about the reports, and we have virtual maps. So you go to maps, under the map section. So you want to know how your VMware, how the virtual devices are interconnected with each other. So you don't need to do any additional configuration. This is going to be automatically done when the vCenter is discovered. So this is how it is going to show how the virtual environment, virtual devices is interconnected in your environment, and you want to know the host to VM mapping or host to network mapping, or you want to update this to see only the VM to network mapping, you just apply and it is going to redraw the map for you. Or you want to know the host to VM mapping as well. So you're just going to filter this based on your need, and it is going to update the map according to your requirement. And this is available for Hyper-V as well as Zen servers environment as well. Next we have is monitoring storage server performance. If you have any storage devices, you want to monitor the RAID management, tape library management, storage capacity forecasting, fabric switch management, and service management. You can do that using OpManager now. This is a very recently added feature in OpManager, and you wanted to give it a try, you can go ahead and add the storage devices. And the supported vendors are the IBM, HP, Dell, Hitachi, Storage, Tech, and so on. And for the SAN switches, we support Brocade, HP, QLogic. And for the tape libraries, we support HP, Dell, IBM, Qualster, and so on. And you wanted to know what is the exact number of devices that we support for storage devices. You can mark this link and access this link to understand whether the devices that you have in your environment is supported by OpManager or not. In case if it is not listed and you want some help from us to monitor those devices, you can write an email to our support and we will help you fix that problem. And you can also pull out the reports for the RAIDs, reads per second, RAID writes per second, and RAID IOPS. So how you discover those devices? So you can go ahead and discover the storage devices using the add storage device option, and you can select the type, whether it is RAID or tape library or FC switch, and you can choose the model, and then you can go ahead and apply, provide the IP address and do a test connection and go ahead and discover this. And before that, you just need to make sure that you add credentials for the storage devices. So you just need to make sure that the SMI credential is added here, the storage API or the NetApp API or the SMI credentials that it is going to use. You need to make sure that it is added here, and then you just got to map that when you discover a storage device in OpManager from here. Next, we have this monitoring the website URLs. So you have any websites that you wanted to monitor from your environment, you can use OpManager to monitor the availability of the web page URL, and also you can define thresholds for the response time. So if the response time is too slow and you want to be notified about that problem, you can still do that. And also it gives you an additional feature where you can match content. You can try to look in for a particular string or a keyword from the respective web page that you're monitoring, and you want to be notified if that particular keyword or string is missing from the web page. Then you can make sure that you configure the match content for the respective page. And also some of the URLs that are that might be going through the proxy server. So in that case, there is an additional configuration that you need to do. So in my case, I have to monitor the mail.soho.com site, the mail server site from our location, and it goes through the proxy, and I cannot directly monitor that. So I have to make sure that I do the proxy server settings in OpManager for me. So only then I can monitor the availability of the mail.soho.com site. If it is a local website, I can just go ahead and add the website and start monitoring it. But if it goes through the proxy, you need to do the additional configuration. I can quickly show that in the product demo now. You go to settings and monitoring the URLs. So here's where you just provide the URL name, the URL address, and the monitoring interval, timeout, and the match content. This is where I set the key string or the keyword which you wanted to make sure that you always check for that, looking for that keyword, and when it goes missing, you want to be notified about that problem. You just make sure that you're looking in for that keyword here, and you can use the post or get method according to the web page. You can set the cookies, and in case if the URL requires any authorization, you can provide the authorization here, and you want to be notified about any availability, the response time threshold violation, or you want to be notified about when the key string is missing. You can just associate this to send an email to the respective channel. You can associate that here. This is how you do that. And you wanted to add multiple URLs. You have all the list of URLs in a CSV file. You can just use this import URLs from CSV option to import the URLs in bulk. And the one more thing that we discussed about is setting the proxy servers for the URLs that goes through proxy. So in that case, any URLs that you're trying to monitor that goes through the proxy, you make sure that you enable this, provide the proxy server name, the port number, the username and password, and just save it. In case if the proxy is not required for any specific devices, you can add a comma and add the IP address or the device name, and to how many number of list of devices that you want, you can go ahead and configure this here. And next we have is file and folder monitoring. So you wanted to monitor the file availability, and you want to be notified when the file is missing, or you want to know the file age, file size, what is the size of the file, how long the file is available, maybe for the last couple of months or last couple of years. You also want to know the file count present in the specific folder, the folder existence, folder size, and if somebody is trying to relocate the folder or file from one location to another location, or trying to delete, want to notify about all those stuffs, you can use this file and folder monitoring in OpManager to do that. And the only catch here is this is available only for the Windows monitoring. In case you wanted to monitor the file and folder for the devices available in a Linux environment, you can use the script to do that. Let me quickly go to the device snapshot page, or let me go to the file and folder monitoring available in the monitoring section. Okay, let me go to inventory page. Here is the device snapshot page here. You go to monitors and you see the file and folder section. So let me start with folder first. So I'll try to add a folder. You just need to provide the folder name, the folder path, and you wanted to monitor the folder existence. If the folder doesn't exist, you want to be notified, or you do not want to monitor the availability of the folder, you can mention that here. You want to know the folder size. So whenever the folder size goes beyond certain level, you want to be notified about that problem. You can configure the actions accordingly. And folder modification, you want to receive an alert when the folder is modified, you can configure the alert modified options. And if you also interested in monitoring the files available inside the folder, and either you want to monitor all the file, or you wanted to filter that based on the extension of the file. So you just wanted to monitor the .log file or .text file or .pdf file. So you can mention that with a comma separated value here by saying that star.txt or comma star.log file, and save it. Or you do not have any restriction, you want to monitor all the files, you can just directly select all the files, and you can configure the alert options, whether if it contains or doesn't monitor or not contains and so on. Then you can go ahead and save this configuration. So once you select the folder that you wanted to monitor from the respective server, it's going to monitor the folder for its availability, folder size, folder age, and file size, file age, file count, and so on. Whenever it deviates from the from the mentioned account. So if the file count decreases, file size increases, if the file is missing, you will receive an alarm from OpManager for that problems. And next is script. So we discussed about monitoring the devices with SNMP, WMI, Telnet, and SSH, and so on. So we discussed about adding monitors from the device template. So here we discussed about how to add additional monitors apart from the default monitors list available. And we have various protocols available, SNMP or WMI. And apart from that, so it is a Windows device, so it is not giving you an option to discover the devices through CLI protocol. In case if it is a Linux device, it will provide an option to add custom monitors for Telnet or using Telnet or SSH protocol as well. So in case you do not have an additional monitors available from the SNMP list, maybe you have a MIB file and you couldn't find the respective OID to monitor the key performance metrics that you wanted to monitor from a new model that you have added an OpManager for it. But anyway, you think that it is achievable by monitoring through a script, and this is where the script is going to help. So you can write any script language that runs on a shell or prompt. We support that: VB script, PowerShell script, Perl, Shell, and Python script. So all you're going to do is just create a script to monitor the specific performance metric from the server. And just by executing the script, you can monitor that. And once the script is ready, all you're going to do is just copy the content of the script, and you just put it here in the script template. So let me edit one of the script. So you just need to provide a name, description, monitoring interval, and you just need to provide the correct command line information. And the script body is nothing but the content of the script. You just want to copy that and paste it here, and then you can either execute that from the local server or monitored machine. You can decide that, and then you can go ahead and save this. So once this particular script is associated to the specific device, you can go ahead and start monitoring the key performance metrics using the script as well. And if you wanted to know some of the sample scripts for the specific information that our users, our OpManager users monitoring, you can go to resources.manageengine.com, looking for the custom script templates, and you have hundreds of scripts available, which are actually used by our customers. They have shared it with us, and it is available in the portal. So you can go ahead and download that and give it a try in case if that matches your requirement. Or you need any help from us, you can always write an email to us, and we can help you to achieve, in case if you have any errors, any script errors when monitoring through the script, we can help you do that. And with that, we are coming to the end of the first part of the presentation. And now we have listed, prioritized some of the questions that we received in our today's session. And let me pull that out for you. So we have our panelist, one of our expert from the support team here. He's going to answer the questions that we received in today's session. He had prioritized and listed some of the questions in the questions bank presentation for you. And I'm going to transfer this session to Venkatesh. He's currently working in the support team, who might be answering some of your questions on a daily basis. So I'm going to transfer this session to him. He's going to take over and discuss the questions that we received in today's session. Over to you, Venkatesh.
Thank you, Suresh, and good evening. And so this is Venkat from OpManager support team. So I'll be handling the question and answer sessions. So let me introduce myself. I'm a product expert for OpManager and today's panelist for the webinar session. So we'll continue with the questions. So what constitutes a license for a monitored device, a physical server, a vCenter, a virtual host, or a virtual machine? So in OpManager, the licensing is based on a node specific. So whenever IP is being managed in OpManager, it will be consuming a license. So it can be a physical server, the vCenter, or host and the VMs under the vCenter everyone will consume its individual license. Based on that, if you wish to monitor 5 to 10 vCenters and 10 physical servers, so you need to purchase 20 license count in total. I have enabled WMI and the credential is passing, but why the interfaces, active process, and installed software of the server is not showing? OpManager relies on the SNMP protocol in order to fetch all these above metrics, the interface and active process installed software. So if you wish to monitor these metrics, so you may have a valid SNMP credential and it should be passing on the test credential set. How to add a custom WMI monitor. So in OpManager, you'll be able to monitor the custom WMI monitor by 2 ways. So one is by adding from the device snapshot page. So go to the individual device snapshot page. Let me just quickly show you. You can go to the devices and can click on the device and go to monitors. And here, from here, you'll be able to add a custom WMI monitor. And the next one, you can go to the settings, monitoring, performance monitors, and you can click on the add monitor and you can choose the respective, you can go to the WMA and choose the respective device name and the credentials, and from here you'll be able to add the custom WMA monitors. Can I perform an action like restarting a virtual machine from my OpManager console? Of course, yes. You'll be able to restart the virtual machines. Let me just show you. You can go to settings, virtualization, intake virtual machine. Click on the actions. And here are the tasks for the VM. So the power on VM, power off VM, suspend VM, the reset. So these are the options available. And from here, you'll be able to reset the, restart the VMs. Is there a way to set the device response time threshold globally for all my devices? Yes, we can set the device globally. The thresholds can be set globally. So we can go to the settings, configuration, quick configuration wizard, and you can go to threshold settings to the availability monitors tab. And here you can set the response time globally and provide a value and a rearm value. Click on the next, and here are the list of devices. You can either select the devices for all, or you can choose a specific category from here, and you can select the devices and you can associate the changes. So this will be applied to the categories as well as for the all devices globally. Moving on to the next question. What protocol is recommended for monitoring a Windows server? Is it a WMI or SNMP? We recommend using the WMI monitor for Windows Server. So the WMI will be able to fetch all the performance metrics, including the CPU, the memory utilization. Apart from that, it will be able to give you the other details, including the top 3 process for the respective utilization. So, however, if you wish to monitor the interfaces, as I mentioned before, you may require the SNMP credentials for that. So, as we depend on the IFMIB, so based on the SNMP OIDs, we'll add the interfaces. And using that, we'll be able to monitor the interface metrics. So, apart from that, the WMA can be used and be able to fetch all the other metrics compared to the SNMP. What applications can be monitored using OpManager? By default, we have some built-in application monitors. Let me just show you that. You can go to settings, monitoring, and application monitors. We have the Active Directory monitoring, the SQL monitoring, and we have several versions of the Exchange servers. So you can just click on the respective monitors, and you can edit the monitoring interval as well as the threshold. And from here, you can click on the apply configuration and select the respective devices and apply the configuration to the devices. Moving on to the next question. When a vCenter server is discovered, all virtual hosts and the guest VMs are added automatically. So is it possible to add the vCenter and then monitor only the required host and guest VMs? Yes, with the vCenter discovery, automatically the host will be added. So which is by default the current configuration. However, the guest VMs can be selected. You can choose the VMs checkboxes and you can proceed with the discovery. So if not, if you wish to have ESX discovery, we do have the option. We can go to settings, discovery, and VMware, and you can go ahead with the VMware ESX host discovery, which will help you in adding the selected VMs under the host. I hope we have come to a conclusion. So here's the YouTube link, and here's our OpManager tech videos. So if you have missed any previous webinars, you can check our video link given in the channel. And here's our help.opmanager, our online help link. So for more information regarding OpManager, you can refer our link. And we do have a forum. So if you have any specific queries, we can have our product experts. You can post your query in the forum and we'll be able to assist you. If you want to reach us for OpManager support for any queries, you can drop us an email to opmanager-support@manageengine.com. And you can also reach us to the below given numbers. I welcome you all for the next training schedule on monitoring the server performance on 16th October at 6:30 a.m. GMT time and 11:30 a.m. EDT time. We'll be discussing more on the monitoring network performance, monitoring hardware sensor, creating the custom SNMP monitors, and how to configure the WAN and the VoIP links in OpManager using the IPSLA. And we'll also discuss the network maps. With this, we come to a conclusion for today's session. I hope the webinar and the Q&A sessions were informative. I thank you all for participating in the webinar session. See you in the next session. Have a wonderful day.